By the third day at the lake, the initial awkwardness between Emma and the five men had melted away, replaced by a comfortable rhythm. Like the gentle sway of the trees or the steady ripple of the water, Emma woke to the soft light filtering through the cabin windows, birds singing just outside, and the faint smell of coffee drifting in from the porch. For the first time in months, the heaviness that had settled in her chest felt lighter. As if the lake's calm had seeped into her soul, she pulled on a loose sweater, grabbed a towel, and headed outside. There they were, Caleb, Jordan, Drew. Eli and Lucas already gathered by the water, each lost in their own worlds but connected by an unspoken bond that had formed over shared stories, laughter, and quiet moments. Emma smiled, stepping onto the dock. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning," Caleb replied, offering her a warm smile that made her cheeks flush. The way he looked at her, without pressure, without expectation, made her feel safe. Jordan was already pulling on his wetsuit, teasing her with a grin. "Ready to show us if you can keep up." Emma laughed. "Don't count on it." The five men represented a spectrum of energy and emotion, each one stirring something different inside her. It was confusing, thrilling, and sometimes overwhelming. Jordan, with his easy charm and quick wit, was like a bright flame. He was full of life, always the first to crack a joke or lift everyone's spirits. His flirtation was lighthearted but genuine. And Emma found herself drawn to his warmth even though she knew his heart belonged to someone else. Waiting for him back in Portland. There was something bittersweet about Jordan. He was here fully, present yet already halfway gone. Drew was quieter but no less magnetic. Watching him was like watching a painter with a brush. He observed everything, capturing beauty in the smallest moments. His photographs of Emma, candid and unguarded, showed a side of her she hadn't seen in a long time, a side full of life and light. Drew's soft-spoken kindness was a balm to her fragile heart. Eli was the spark. His laughter was infectious, his energy boundless. He challenged Emma to push beyond her comfort zone, leading her on hikes through thick forest, trails, and daring her to try wild swimming in the deeper parts of the lake. His presence was like sunshine breaking through the clouds. With him, Emma felt a sense of joy and freedom she hadn't known she needed. Caleb was the quiet anchor. His calm demeanor and thoughtful eyes made him a natural confidant. Over cups of coffee and long conversations, he shared pieces of his past, the heartbreak of his recent divorce, the fears of starting over, the hope that maybe life still had surprises. Emma found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't with anyone else. And then there was Lucas. Lucas was the mystery. His silence was not emptiness, but depth. There was something in his gaze, a kind of pain wrapped in strength, that called to Emma's own wounds. They often found themselves alone together, sitting on the dock beneath the stars or walking the quiet forest path. One evening, the sky was painted with streaks of pink and purple as the sun dipped below the horizon. Emma and Lucas stood side by side, looking out at the still lake. "You never told me why you're here," Emma said softly. Lucas hesitated, then turned to her. "Some stories are harder to tell." She nodded, understanding more than he said. "You look like someone who's been carrying a lot." Lucas continued, his voice low. Emma swallowed, her throat tight. "Maybe I have." They shared a moment, fragile and honest, the kind that doesn't need words, despite the growing closeness. Emma's heart was still guarded. She knew the risk of falling too fast. She'd been hurt before, and the ache still lingered like a shadow on sunny days. But here, with these five men, each so different, each so real, her heart was waking up again. It was confusing, sometimes painful. There were moments when she wanted to reach out to Jordan's easy smile or Drew's quiet kindness, when Eli's laughter made her want to leap into the unknown, when Caleb's steady presence calmed her stormy thoughts. But it was Lucas who shook her to her core. One night after the others had gone to bed, Emma sat on the dock wrapped in a blanket. The stars were out, A million silent witnesses to everything she felt but couldn't say. Lucas joined her without a word. They sat side by side in the cold night air. The silence between them deep but not uncomfortable. After a while, Lucas spoke. "You look like someone who's trying to forget." Emma turned to him, surprised by the insight. "And you look like someone who remembers too much," she replied. He nodded, a shadow crossing his face. "Maybe that's why we see each other." The weight of his words settled over her. She realized that what drew them together wasn't just attraction. It was the shared pain, the loneliness they both carried. Over the next hours, they talked about loss, about fear, about hope. Emma told Lucas about Nate, about the engagement that ended before it began, about the nights she spent wondering if she'd ever feel whole again. Lucas shared pieces of his own story, a love lost, a dream shattered, the struggle to keep going when everything seemed broken. It was the kind of conversation that heals and hurts at the same time. By the time dawn crept over the horizon, Emma felt something she hadn't in a long time, a fragile hope. But as the weekend edged toward its end, the reality of their fleeting time together pressed down on her. She wasn't just facing the possibility of new love. She was confronting her own fears. What if she opened her heart again and got hurt? What if the connection she felt was just an illusion? And most importantly, what if she had to choose? 5 men, 5 different stories. 5 pieces of her heart tangled in ways she couldn't yet understand. She knew she couldn't keep running. The lake had changed her, and now she had to decide if she was ready to take the risk. The sun rose over, the lake casting golden light on the water and the 5 men who had slowly become part of her life. Emma stood on the dock, looking at each one of them. Her heart ached with longing and fear. The weekend that was meant to be a quiet escape had become a crossroads. And as she looked out at the water deep, wide, mysterious, she realized one thing clearly. Her life would never be the same, that the last morning at the lake was wrapped in a gentle hush. The world holding its breath as if it knew change was coming. Emma woke early, sunlight filtering softly through the cabin's curtains. The air smelled of pine and fresh earth, mixed with the faint scent of the coffee she'd left on the porch. This weekend had been nothing like she expected. What was meant to be a brief escape from heartbreak had become something far more complicated and beautiful. She thought about the 5 men who had become her companions. Each one different but equally important in their own way. Their laughter still echoed in her ears. Their stories lingered in her heart. And most of all, their presence had awakened something inside her she thought was lost. Emma pulled on her sweater and stepped outside. The lake stretched wide and calm before her. Caleb was the first to appear, carrying 2 mugs of steaming coffee. "Morning," he said softly, handing one to her. "Morning," Emma replied, grateful for the quiet comfort he offered. They sat together on the porch steps, the silence between them easy and familiar. Caleb's eyes held a tenderness that made Emma feel seen. Truly seen for the first time in a long while. He was steady, kind, the kind of man who didn't rush feelings but let them grow naturally. Yet even as she felt safe with him, Emma knew her heart was still searching. Jordan appeared next, already dressed for the day, a playful grin on his face. "Last chance to try and beat me at fishing," he teased. Emma laughed, the sound light and free. Jordan's energy was infectious. And for a moment, she let herself forget everything except the joy of the moment. His easy charm was like a warm summer breeze, comforting and full of promise. But deep down, she knew his path was leading elsewhere. And hers might not follow. Drew came around the corner with his camera hanging around his neck. "I took some photos last night," he said, holding up the small camera screen. Emma leaned in, watching the images flicker by, candid shots of her smiling, looking thoughtful, caught in moments of genuine happiness. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Drew's shy smile was a quiet reminder that sometimes the gentlest souls make the biggest impact. Eli bounded up the steps, full of energy even on this calm morning. "Come on, Emma. "One last swim before we go," he challenged. His laughter was contagious. And despite her hesitation, Emma found herself nodding with Eli. Life felt like an adventure, unpredictable and wild. He pushed her to live fully, even if just for these fleeting moments. Last to join was Lucas, who approached quietly, his expression unreadable. He stood beside Emma, looking out at the lake with a thoughtful gaze. For all the words left unsaid, for all the pain between them, there was an unspoken understanding, a connection deeper than conversation. Emma turned to him, heart pounding. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" he asked. "For seeing me," she replied. Lucas smiled faintly, a hint of something tender in his eyes. As the day unfolded, Emma found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions: gratitude, longing, confusion, and hope. She realized that the weekend had been a crossroads, a chance to rediscover who she was. Beyond the heartbreak and loss, each man had given her something precious: laughter, understanding, challenge, kindness, and quiet companionship. But the question remained: what would come next? Could she carry all of this with her, or did she have to choose? There are moments in life that arrive quietly, no warning. No signs, just a sudden shift, like the world tilting half a degree without anyone noticing. For Emma Carter, that moment came on a Saturday morning in early September, standing alone on a weathered wooden dock, staring out over a still, silent lake. The air was crisp, the sky heavy with gray clouds, and the scent of pine needles carried on the breeze. The only sounds were the occasional chirp of a bird or the gentle lapping of water against the shore. It felt peaceful, solitary, just the way she'd hoped it would. Emma hadn't planned this weekend for company. 3 months earlier, she'd been planning a wedding. She'd been picking out centerpieces, trying on dresses, and listening to her fiancé Nate talk about their future home in the suburbs of Seattle. But beneath the smiles and Pinterest boards, something had felt off. Her instincts had whispered. At first, and then 3 weeks before the wedding, Nate had confirmed it with a tearful confession and a single sentence that echoed in her bones: "I don't think I'm ready to spend my life with someone I'm not sure I love." It hadn't been cruel, just honest. And that somehow made it worse. So Emma had done what she always did when life got too loud. She ran to the lake. Her family's cabin sat tucked away in the Pacific Northwest, untouched since her father passed away 2 years ago. A little wooden house that smelled like cedar and old books, with a dock that reached out into calm waters, like a hand waiting to be held. She hadn't told anyone where she was going. She just packed a weekend bag, locked her phone in the glove box, and drove until the city fell away behind her. And now, standing at the edge of the dock, wrapped in a thick sweater and wearing nothing but a navy blue swimsuit underneath, she exhaled slowly, her breath fogged in the morning air. The water below looked cold and welcoming, even, but something in her needed it. Needed to feel again, anything. Without overthinking, Emma pulled off her sweater, stepped to the edge, and dove. The water shocked her system like a breath she hadn't taken in weeks. It was cold, biting at her skin, but it also cleared her head instantly. She swam with slow, deliberate strokes, letting the rhythm pull her deeper into the lake and farther away from the heaviness inside her chest. For the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of freedom. She floated on her back, watching the sky. Eyes closed, and then voices. Male voices, laughter splashing, the unmistakable thud of feet on wood. Emma blinked. Startled, she treaded water slowly and turned her head toward the source of the sound. On the dock next door, barely 50 feet away, stood 5 men. They were barefoot, shirtless, all laughing like the world hadn't disappointed them yet. It was the first time she realized someone else was staying in the neighboring cabin. That cabin had been empty for years. The last time she'd been here, the place looked abandoned, dock half broken, chairs covered in moss. But now, it was alive. There was music playing faintly from a portable speaker. Coffee mugs sat on the railing. Towels hung out to dry. And then one of them noticed her. Tall, dark hair still wet from a swim, wearing black swim trunks and holding a can of beer loosely in one hand. He looked different from the others, not louder or friendlier, just quieter, more grounded. His eyes met hers, and for a moment the noise around him faded. Emma's heart jumped too quickly, too foolishly. She turned away. This wasn't why she came here. She didn't need this. Whoever they were, she swam back to her side of the lake, climbed up onto her own dock, and wrapped herself in a towel. She pretended not to hear their laughter. Pretended. Not to glance over once, then twice. Pretended her heart wasn't beating a little faster for reasons she didn't understand. Back inside the cabin, she made tea, lit a fire in the old stone hearth, and tried to lose herself in a book. But the words blurred. Her mind drifted. Silence she had once craved now felt. Less like peace and more like a question. Who were they? Why were they here? And why did it feel like something had shifted the moment she met his eyes? That night, as dusk fell over the lake and the trees turned to silhouettes, Emma stood on her porch and watched the faint flicker of firelight from the dock next door. The group was still there, their laughter now softer, warmer. Like the end of a story instead of the beginning. She told herself not to get involved, not to open any doors she wasn't ready to walk through. But deep down, something stirred in her chest, a soft pull toward possibility, the chance that maybe, just maybe, the universe had brought her here for more than solitude. That swim wasn't just a swim. It was the start of something. She just didn't know what yet. The first time Caleb approached Emma, she was sitting on the porch of her family's cabin, wrapped in a soft blanket and lost in a worn paperback. The sky had softened into a quiet, gray, promising rain, but holding back. Just long enough for her to feel some fragile peace. She didn't expect company, so when she saw a barefoot man carrying 2 cups of coffee, walking casually toward her, she almost dropped her book. He smiled a small, genuine smile that didn't demand anything but offered something simple, like kindness. His dark hair was damp and his eyes, a deep hazel, held a softness that felt inviting. "I didn't mean to interrupt," he said, setting down the cups carefully. "I'm Caleb. We didn't mean to crash your quiet weekend." Emma smiled back, a little shyly. "Emma and I was just reading, good book?" he asked, settling onto the porch railing. "Something to keep me distracted." She said honestly they fell into easy conversation, as if they'd known each other longer than a few minutes. Caleb told her about the cabin next door, how it belonged. 2 childhood friends who had reunited for a weekend getaway, last chance before life scattered them again. There were 5 of them, he said, each with their own story and scars. That was when Emma's curiosity took hold, when the others finally appeared. They introduced themselves one by one, like characters from a novel she wasn't expecting to read, but couldn't put down. Jordan was the first to greet her, a tall, sandy-haired man with a quick smile and the kind of energy that filled a room without trying. He was a schoolteacher from Portland, home for the weekend before his wedding. His warmth was genuine, but there was a bittersweet edge to his laughter, as if part of him was already somewhere else. Then there was Drew, quiet and thoughtful, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He carried a camera slung around his neck, snapping pictures of everything and nothing, capturing moments no one else noticed. When he spoke, his voice was soft but steady, like he weighed every word before letting it go. Eli was the jokester, the one who made everyone laugh even when they didn't want to. His smile was infectious, his spirit untamed. And his stories about growing up with 3 sisters made Emma laugh harder than she had in weeks. Finally, there was Lucas, the man she had seen on the dock the first day. He was different from the rest, still and reserved, with dark eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 unspoken thoughts. He didn't say much at first, but when he did, his words carried a weight that made Emma listen carefully. Each man was distinct, carrying his own history, his own wounds. Yet together they felt like pieces of a puzzle she didn't know she was trying to solve that first night. They gathered around a crackling fire on the dock between the two cabins. The flames cast dancing shadows on their faces as stories flowed, laughter mingling with the scent of pine and smoke. Emma sat close enough to feel the warmth, but far enough to keep her heart guarded. She listened as they talked about their lives, Jordan's impending marriage, Drew's dream of moving to New York to pursue photography, Caleb's recent divorce that still stung like a fresh wound, Eli's restless spirit searching for meaning, and Lucas's quiet pain, hinted at but never fully revealed. With each story, Emma felt her own walls start to crack. It wasn't just their words. It was the way they looked at her, not like a stranger, but like someone they wanted to understand. Not with pity, but with genuine interest. For the first time since Nate left, Emma felt seen. In the days that followed, Emma found herself pulled deeper into their world. She swam with them in the lake, the water no longer cold but warm with laughter, and shared moments. Jordan teased her about her clumsy strokes. Drew captured candid photos of her, his camera clicking softly like a heartbeat. Eli's endless energy challenged her to hike further and faster than she thought possible. Caleb became her morning companion. They talked for hours over coffee, sharing pieces of their pasts, their fears, their hopes. Emma was drawn to his kindness, to the way he listened without judgment. But it was Lucas who intrigued her most. He was always nearby, but never intrusive. When they crossed paths, there was a quiet understanding, a shared loneliness beneath the surface. One afternoon, they found themselves alone on the dock, the world reduced to the gentle ripple of water and the distant calls of birds. "You don't talk much," Emma said, breaking the silence. Lucas smiled faintly. "Some things are better left unsaid." Emma nodded, sensing the weight behind his words. There was pain there, a story he wasn't ready to tell. Their moments together were brief but electric, small touches, lingering looks and conversations that danced around the edges of vulnerability. Yet, even as Emma felt her heart opening, she was wary. She knew what heartbreak felt, like the ache of losing someone she thought she could trust. The sting of promises broken and futures rewritten. She had come to the lake to heal, not to fall again.